Hello and welcome to the Node.js Foundation Technical Steering Committee on August 1st, 2018. Are there any announcements from anybody? Then I think we can jump right into the agenda. The first item is on Node.js build. It's the request for elevated permissions. Rodwag will send out an email with an update there, so there's nothing to discuss this week in the meeting. And then in Node.js Node, we have a collaborator nomination for GDMs. That's issue 21934. So welcome, thanks for joining us. The next issue is password hashing API. That is issue 21766. Does anybody want to say something here, or is this something we should defer to the security working group?
I think, who was it who added it to the agenda, just to see if
Nikita.
somebody's here?
I think Nikita has trouble. Oh, there he is. Might be some issues with the audio. Let's see if it works for him. Hey, Nikita, does your audio work?
If not, maybe you can type in the chat and we can relay it.
Yeah, or we can continue and then go back to password hashing. That's okay for everybody. So let's skip that for now and revisit in a minute. Instead, the next issue in Node.js Node is 21654 TTY. Make read throw a different error. Matteo opened the issue and he added it to the agenda, but he's not here. Can anybody else speak to that, or should we wait till next week when he's here?
I can speak to it a little bit. So there was a libuv upgrade, and when we upgraded libuv, it broke a use case that this PR is trying to fix. I think this PR doesn't actually fix the issue. So we need to decide, if we want to try to work around the issue in Node, which is that we're not respecting some of the flags on the streams that we're creating, or if we want to try to revert in libuv.
Colin, are the right people in that discussion? Because that sounds like a very specialist issue.
So Ben has been pinged, but he hasn't been around in like a month.
Yeah, Ben is off for a little bit. I'm not sure quite when he's coming back, but
Santiago, he was the person who reviewed the libuv PR, so he's on the thread, so he has the context. I don't know who else would need to be looped in. Oh, and Jeremiah, so for TTY, so Jeremiah is on there too.
So is there anything for the TST to decide here? My concern would be simply that it's that we don't have collective domain knowledge about it, and it's the kind of thing we would normally defer to libuv and stream experts.
Yeah, I don't think we need to talk about it at the meeting today, especially with Matteo not being here.
So I can speak to it a bit too, because I think I'm currently the main person objecting to this. Yeah, I think we definitely need input from libuv whether they actually want to fix that issue in libuv or not. It's whatever we do is going to depend on that. So yeah, I don't think there's anything for us to decide right now, but
Yeah, I guess based on that, I'd suggest we leave it till next week if Mateo's around to understand why he asked it. It doesn't seem to be a specific question in the issue itself either to us.
Okay, thanks for the summaries, and we can discuss it next week. Let's skip the next one until Nikita has the audio working and go to version 10x. Revert HTTP, always emit close on request and response. That is issue 21809. I think Tigers added that to the agenda.
Yes, so it was on the agenda for the last meeting, and I don't exactly remember what we said, but I got only 2 +1s on the PR, and there are people, not collaborators, but there are people that are not. I'm not sure if it's a good idea to make a breaking change, another breaking change after the first one. So I don't know what you think about it here.
I'm +1 on it. I just hold on one second. We've got.
I'm muted.
I think you may have to.
So is everyone here okay if I put this in today's release? Or should we wait 2 more weeks?
Yeah, sorry about that. We have feedback in the room because Timothy and I are in the same room. We haven't figured this out yet. I think that with Semver and the kind of, what is considered the good practices with Semver, we broke Semver accidentally. That is a bug. And we're fixing the bug, which is non-Semver major. This is prior to LTS. And I think part of our support contract with Current is, this is in line with it. And I think doing the right thing to do here is to revert the change that was Semver major.
I agree. I'm +1 on it too.
Yeah, I'd already championed the issue to that effect as well.
Yeah, maybe more people can jump in on the issue, and then hopefully in a few days we have enough votes.
Okay, so I don't merge it into the PR for 10.8.
I don't think, Franzi, is there a reason that you were suggesting particularly to wait? There are no objections on the PR right now, and we have, at this point now, 3 approvals, and it's been open for 18 days.
I've just put an approval in too, so 4. I reckon go ahead.
I thought Targus, were you approving of it, or were you just...
Sorry?
Okay, so you're not objecting to it either, right? You just want to...
No, I'm not objecting.
Okay. No, then we don't need to wait longer, since we surfaced it now and there are no objections.
Well,
Okay.
there was a non-collaborator objection, which is why we're discussing this, right?
Yes, that's why I added it to the agenda.
Who was objecting?
So the comment was by like 5 hours ago by a non-collaborator, Rui Araujo. And he said, like, since it's already released and reverting it again would just be breaking it again. And that comment has 2 upvotes, again, from non-collaborators.
Well, I guess in a sense that's why I suggested waiting, because right now we have 3 TSC members who reviewed it, and maybe we want a more critical mass.
Yeah, I guess the only pushback I would give on that is that it's already been open for almost 3 weeks. And arguably the longer that we do releases without this added, the more credence there is to the point of not doing it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got disconnected there. But if it's I don't like saying this, but if it's not a collaborator disagreeing, then I don't think we are in contravention of our policies pushing forward.
And I think we've gotten a number of other people who are in the meeting to jump in now. So now it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 6 TSC members approving it.
Okay, so I think this is ready to merge then. Okay, then the next issue is on Node.js Docker node. It's image without npm nor yarn, issue 404. And it says in the notes, update via email from Rod. Is that the right note for this issue? Or is this a different issue?
This is a different issue.
Yeah, I feel this sentence gets stuck. Yep, okay.
And this one's been on the agenda for a little while, hasn't it? Is it just awareness, or are they wanting permission?
It was raised last week, and Tierney added it on to the agenda. I think at least partially for awareness. The suggestion was for more people to jump into. There's actually an issue opened in release that I'd opened earlier, suggesting that maybe we want to have 2 types of builds. I did look yesterday, and nobody else I don't think had actually chimed in there. But I think people chiming in there saying yes, this looks like a good idea, or no, it's not. The reason Tierney was adding it here is that the Docker working group is actually going to go to steps to remove it. So I don't think they're waiting for permission. He just looked at it as hey, this is a situation where one of the groups within the project is having to do something that if it was done at the project at the release level, they wouldn't have to be removing pieces and trying to avoid something that's maybe not the right way to go.
On the flip side of that, Michael, the steps that they have to do if they're removing it from the Debian image, which is the base image they're looking at doing it for, is just like rim wrapping a folder. Whereas on our side, if we do a release, we now have twice as many assets that we need to maintain over time, sign and host in cloud storage. One other thing that I do want to make sure is raised to people, in Docker node, if you look at pull request number 808 from 28 days ago, I just became aware of this. For the small images, they're talking about calling it the core image. I'm likely to raise an objection to this later today. I don't think that's the best name. I've seen in the ecosystem these kinds of images referred to as a tiny image. But I think because core is a word that we use around specifically refer to node core, that may be a bit confusing and not convey the message intended. But if other people on the TSC have any advice, I do want to make sure that I'm not just kind of stomping around. This isn't a working group that I participate in. So I didn't want to chime in before bringing up to the group. Does anyone else see any problems with that naming? Am I maybe being a little too sensitive about it?
I don't really see a problem, but I agree with you that tiny is a bit more idiomatic for Docker. I'm surprised that this group has jumped to core rather than tiny. I suspect that's because of the movements around Core OS and what Red Hat's doing with the naming of it now as well. Maybe that's where that's coming from. But I agree, but maybe just do it gently, because these guys are working really well with autonomy, and let's not try and ruin that too much.
Yeah, I could bring it as a suggestion and not make an objection. I'm a member of the working group. I don't even have an ability to, but I can chime it in a friendly way.
So I guess back to 404, my suggestion would be, I'm going to paste in the link to the other issue. I'd say just, we should probably just continue the conversation there, and this can probably be removed from the agenda.
Okay, sounds good to me. And if they have more questions or issues, they can always add it back on.
Yep.
All right, so let's go back to the second Node.js node issue, password hashing API, that is issue 21766. Nikita, do you want to say something about this?
Yes. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Great. So I left a proposal in the chat. Have you seen it? Let me give you a link. And about referring to the security working group, that might be a good idea for the general discussion on what to do with the crypto model that is already going on in the security working group. But for this specific case, I think that we need to decide whether we plan to partially revert the change, which already landed in the branch. I think that what was previously discussed, and no one objected back then. Let me find the proposal. I just pasted the link to the chat. It's basically to rename a script to something else. And as FAP has suggested, call it a script and have calls to the OTP by the name script, redirect to script unsafe for the 10x branch, but print deprecation warnings. So that will be installed in deprecation warning on 10.x. If I remember correctly, that's what we previously discussed, but we didn't have a quorum back then.
I'll have a look at it after the meeting and see if I can get my head around it. I'm assuming you just need more voices in there to express opinions.
I think that this will need either a vote or a consensus to land such change. If there would be no objections, I think that I could draft a pull request for that. But I'm bad at docs, but I think that I could draft the code change appeal.
Yeah, maybe if everybody could have a look, and then unless you see objections by tonight, you can go ahead with the pull request.
Yes, I think that will be good.
Okay. Thanks for working on this. Then the next issue that we skipped is doc, remove 2 unused error codes from errors MD. That is issue 21491. And
yes,
that's another one you opened, which has lots of approvals.
that has an objection from G, so that had to be brought up, I suppose. And that objection is not resolved now, so that pull request is kind of stalled. So any comments on that?
Who objected?
It had come up in the last few meetings, and we were just waiting until one where we had Joey so she could participate in the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, I sort of dismissed my objection. So sorry about the late response.
Okay, perfect. So this is ready to land. Okay, then the next meeting is on Node.js TSC. It's issue 570 about moving the meeting times to 12, 16, and 21. This is the times we came up with when we checked out the availabilities of everybody. Thanks, Nikita, for doing all the work on this. Are there any objections to this new time slot? So I think in that case, we can go ahead and officially make those the new times. Who is usually updating our calendar and the template?
I can go and update it.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Okay, and then the next agenda item is proposal add all new core modules under scope, too late for HTTP2. That is issued TSC 389. Is this just on here for awareness, or do we actively need to discuss it at the moment?
Well, the last comment basically says it needs a decision from the TSC. Some of the history was it was put on. There was some discussion. There was a suggestion that maybe an implementation would help illustrate some of the sort of subtleties in terms of helping to make a decision. There was an implementation. I'm not sure it necessarily clarified everything, but I think there was general agreement that it just needed to come back for a decision to be made.
So adding to that really quickly though, like there's a pull request that's open. There's discussions around the implementation of that pull request. There's some meta discussion around how we should be handling the scope, but I don't think personally that we're at a point where we can vote, because it doesn't feel like we have anything concrete enough to vote on. But I think one of the problems that we're having here, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, is that because we have a lack of any sort of RFC process now for larger decisions like this that are there's a lot of different moving parts to be decided upon, such as which API should be moved into the scope, should all APIs be in the scope, should only promised APIs be in the scope. Not saying any one of those are better than the other, but we don't really have a process in place for discussing this without putting together an implementation. So while Jordan has requested a vote, I don't actually feel like we have anything concrete enough to vote on now, aside from, and maybe this could be good that we could reach consensus on, that perhaps no one on the TSC objects, or at least we have consensus on the TSC, which doesn't require a vote, that scopes are something that we should do. And perhaps that is something that we can try to have consensus on. I would prefer us to not vote if we don't need to.
And I think that's what Jordan was asking for, was his comment was he's happy to go ahead and continue to work or refine the implementation, but I think it was a request to say a decision one way or the other, just so that it's not doesn't go off and do that, and then in the end it's oh, we just don't want to do that.
I have soft objections to this, and I've raised this before, which is that I don't like the idea of making it easier to add more modules to core, but I see the case for promise APIs. I just don't like the idea that, oh, we've removed one entire barrier for just adding whatever we like to call.
But yeah. Rod, I mean, if we keep it strict as to how we add APIs, I mean, there's one way to view it is that we're making it easier, and the other is that we're optimizing a problem so we don't need to deal with it. HTTP2 and navigating that was problematic, and while it does create an extra barrier to entry, I think still that a scope is the right thing for us to do because we don't own the namespace.
Yeah, so this does go back to a broader discussion that a few of us are having about around the whole small core and shared values thing. I don't really like the idea of that getting mixed up with these particular issues, because this isn't specifically about small core. That objection is sort of orthogonal to it. But I did put another item on the agenda that probably show up next week, and that's about that as well. It's simply, hey, there's stuff being added. It's a discussion that we need to have on how we come up with a shared value statement around these things. Anyway, let's not dwell on it. We can.
Yeah, I was just going to add, because I don't think the it makes it too easy to add things. Like if we think we should make it harder to add things or have more of a review process, we should do that as opposed to like not scoping because it makes things harder, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I guess. I agree.
Yeah. I guess it's like, how do we get to, I'm not sure we have, at one point there were some strong objections. I'm not sure if those still exist. So, how do we get to the point where it's clear whether, people are generally okay with, going for a namespace or not?
Well, are there any explicit objections in that thread outstanding still? I think that's the key. This thing has been on the agenda for a long time. There's been plenty of visibility. If there are remaining objections, they need to be sorted out. If not, that's sort of approval.
So let's take a look. It's an issue. I mean, I guess as an issue, it's less clear. I mean, Matteo, who was, I think, strongly objecting at one point, has basically said, don't block on me. So we could look at that. I mean, should we just put in the issue, basically, there were no objections to this moving forward in the last TSC meeting, please comment here. And if there aren't any objections by X amount of time, we can consider that it can move forward. Is that a reasonable way?
Yeah, I think it's up to Jordan. Just say to Jordan, look, we haven't surfaced any strong objections to this, so you could move forward to the next stage of actually showing an implementation that could even be voted on.
I mean, I'm kind of in Matteo's boat too. I'm not a fan of the idea, and I would be against it, but I also don't want to get this blocked on me. Yeah.
Does it perhaps make sense that we put this together as a strategic initiative and maybe make a team that's responsible for doing this so we can have something more structured? Is that maybe something that's blocking this moving forward?
I mean, in my mind, the thing that might help is the strong pros and cons, but I don't know if that would actually change anybody's thoughts, right? I've heard a bunch of reasons why, if TC39 is going to do something, we don't want to, but then TC39 has said not to wait, and I don't know.
It sounds like what we have is a bunch of strong pros and a bunch of soft cons. And none of those cons are hard enough to really prevent moving forward. That's really what it sounds like. A bunch of us are like, yeah, but we can't really come up with a good solid reason to stop progress on it.
If we thought about this similar to how TC39 does the process, we could consider this to be stage one. I know we don't have this here, but if we wanted to explore using their stages, stage one is we are open to exploring this and we want to see an example of the implementation. And when we have the implementation written down, we can promote it to a stage where we can start getting that implementation reviewed. I'm not saying we need to do a one-to-one, but we can make it explicitly clear that the TSC is open to hearing proposed implementation, and there's no objections right now, and we'd need to see the implementation to make further decisions.
I think that maps really well onto what's going on here. There's no strong objections, so we shouldn't be preventing it from moving forward.
Right, and that moving forward, would it be like so that, you know, once there's a PR open, there'll be additional review discussion at that point? Is that the?
I would imagine so. I don't think this is too much more complicated than a PR is. PR wouldn't be particularly complex here, would it? Like, it's not a huge ask of Jordan or whoever else wants to put it together. Give us a PR. So
I don't think it needs to. Oh, apologies. Please continue.
No, that's all.
I was just going to.
You might have a delay because Rod was finished.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
I am not going to speak. Rod, please finish your thought. I apologize.
I will speak, and what I will speak is that I'm done speaking. So go ahead, Miles.
It's sorry, I'm showing my Canadian politeness and excitement at speaking. I don't think we need an implementation to move forward on this. I really think even just a paragraph or two about what modules would move into scopes, maybe a short little bit about how we want to do it, which I think is in the resolver. But I think the biggest thing that we need to reach consensus on is what modules end up in scopes and how we're handling our old APIs and if we want it to be mirrored and rules around where new modules go. And to be explicit, I think that this is more policy than implementation.
So the comment I'm putting into the issue is, in the last TC meeting, we discussed again, there were no strong objections. What would be good is a list of modules that would move into scopes and how we are handling old APIs and rules around where new modules go. Does that seem reasonable to everybody?
Sounds good to me. Okay, then the next issue is the recurring issue for board updates. Miles?
Hi. Currently, right now, July is an off month for meetings, but we are collecting agenda items for the upcoming meeting that will be likely in mid-August. Please ping me if you have any. Quick reminder that if you go to Node.js/TSC and you go to our projects page, there is a board tracker, including things that are in progress, proposed charter changes, things to bring to the board, working with subcommittee, working with executive director, done and abandoned. If you want to get things on my radar, please feel free to just throw things into that board. I consult with you constantly, or to just write me.
All right, thank you. Then the next issue is the strategic initiatives, that is issue 423. Well, let's go through the list. Any updates on HTTP 2? Any updates on modules, Miles?
Modules are moving slowly but surely. We have another meeting today where we're digging into some of the areas where we do not have consensus. Hopefully I'll have a good update for you next week.
Okay, thank you. Anything on NAPI, Michael Dawson?
Just we had good evangelism at Node Summit with a workshop and a number of talks. And our continued focus is on adding documents and testing for Node add-on API. So if anybody's listening wants to help out with that, would be great.
Great, thanks.
There's a bit of a controversy around backward compatibility with libuv2, isn't there, with NAPI?
There should be an issue that's going to be opened with that in terms of discussing whether libuv, the libuv team. So we've never said that libuv is part of an API or is part of the stability guarantee. That does pose some challenges in terms of, modules who need more than what we've encapsulated, can't take advantage of what you get from an API. and we need to discuss. There's always been, a couple different options. One, which is libuv decides that they are going to provide a stability guarantee, and that's what the issue would be open to discuss. Other options include, us covering more of its surface area in an API, or figuring out that, the portion we've already covered is right. I don't personally think it makes sense for us to cover all of it. At that point, it's, I think the first, if we thought that an API needed to cover everything in libuv, then it's better that libuv itself provides the guarantee rather than trying to wrap that whole thing. But Gabriel was going to open an issue to get that discussion going in the context of, Matteo mentioned that there was going to be a release plan soon, so we should discuss it in that time frame.
I posted the link to the libuv issue in the chat.
Great, thanks. I'll add that.
Okay, then the next initiative, Open SSL Evolution, Rod.
So don't have any updates, but I've been playing a bit with TLS 1.3. Maybe there'll be updates on that in the near future.
Cool. Anna, anything for workers?
Sorry, no. I've been mostly busy with other stuff.
No problem. Joye, error messages?
No, nothing to update this week.
Okay. Does anybody know about core promise APIs from James? Miles, anything new on governance initiative?
Nothing for right now, although I would say that the stuff that Rod was just talking about specifically around core values fits very much into this. Rod, would you like to pull request yourself as either taking over that initiative or sharing the initiative with me because of this?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Then new streams API, I don't know, as Jeremiah is not here either, right?
Yeah, I came here late.
Sorry.
So I've made some progress there. I have my zlib transform now up as a module. You can find that under zlib-transform on npm. Also, I've done some experimentation on possible alternate versions of the API, notably using generators and async iterators. That did not go quite as well as I expected. So I'm not sure if that will be a viable solution in the end. It'll definitely be consumable as a generator from an async iterator, no matter what we do, just like streams 3 are. I will continue to look into that, but that doesn't look quite as promising as I'd hoped.
Thanks. V8 currency, Michael?
Yes, so V8 6.8 landed on master last week, and it seems to be the cause of issues in CI. I don't know if Michael Dawson, you can speak about it.
I don't know the full details, but from my understanding, is it seems to have caused some instability in the OSX build. The knock-on effect of that is that because we use OSX to build our headers, it means that we've only been getting headers being built, say 30% of the time. I just saw the issue today, so I haven't read the full issue to be able to talk to why it's causing instability. But my very, very quick read was it didn't sound like it was a simple, let's just tweak one thing. So I'm thinking we may need to back it out if it's going to take us a little while to figure out how to resolve it.
Okay. I also opened the pull request to update V8 to 6.9, and there are a few issues with platforms like FreeBSD and SmartOS. So if people know about those platforms, I would be happy to get some help. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Async hooks, but I think Ali's not here. And then last initiative is Open Web Standards, Miles.
There's an open issue right now talking about TC39 and ECMA and getting involved. I have conversations both at the board level and at the ECMA level to figure out some of the political bits of getting this aligned, and have a meeting next week. So I don't think I'll be able to update at the next meeting because it's on Thursday, but the following meeting I should have some more updates.
All right, thank you. That is all the initiatives. Are there any issues that we missed? I don't see any questions on YouTube. So I think that's it for today.
I do have one thing if people can stick around for the private section.
Yes. All right. But that's the end of the public meeting. Thanks everybody for listening. Bye-bye.